Juan and you mentioned most don't use the hand pivot correctly. Can you explain? I'm not sure what he was referring to, but to use the hand pivot correctly, the pivot is the trigger. The pivot is the launch. It is not a slot the elbow and then snap. It's then pivot, okay? Which is what we see some former high-level pattern people going to. I promise you, if you slot your elbow first and then snap, you will bleed your corner and you're losing all the good that comes out of your rear leg. The proper use of the hand pivot is to snap behind the leg, behind the corner, and then as a result of that, the corner will burst. John says, explain the use of the upper back in the launch. Okay? First of all, we got to get stretched, right? So we got to have this coil stretch. Notice you can see how my leg is getting twisted. By the way, I think a mistake people make is they don't fuse up first. When I fuse up first, notice everything is moving. It's not just my butt or just my back. Everything is moving. I'm fused into a unit. So now I've got a stretch around my rear leg, up my hip, into my back. If I pull back a little bit more and stretch my upper back and then snap, I get a sudden launch. So if you saw my tweet today about that young kid who asked me to analyze his swing, I put up a pretty lengthy analysis showing that Matt Carpenter's leg would turn him into here roughly before he pulled the trigger. The kid was stretching like this and basically had a linear stretch, if you will, and then he would swing from here. So Carpenter gets to pull the trigger from here. The kid gets to pull the trigger from here. Carpenter is way closer to contact, has a shorter distance to go. The kid might have a stretch, but he's got this long way to go. Okay? So how does Carpenter get his leg to turn him around like that and still be stretched? So to your question, John, when we get this initial fusion and coil, and then we pick up our foot and start to go forward, we want this to happen. We want this to happen. I'm showing my leg turning my hip, okay? We want that to happen, but we also want to have the stretch. So if I don't use my upper back, I get to here, and I get this movement here, I've blown the corner, and all I can do is push my arms. But if I've got this move here, and as I pick up my foot and go forward, I pull back more with my back, I keep the corner, and now when I snap, I got the benefit of the burst of the leg. So the upper body, the upper back I should say, the pulling back like this, pinching your scap into your spine, helps us control our weight, keeps our weight back. As we pick up our foot and pull back against that move, we get an open hip. Let me say that better, an open lower body. My hip is still closed in the hip socket, but my leg is turned open. So this feeling right here is the same as that feeling right there in my hip socket. Closed, lower body open, and when I pull back like this against that, I have the corner, and when I snap and tilt, I have the snappy launch. Okay? Can you explain the timing of the swing from beginning till end and what occurs by itself and what things occur at the same time? You first want to fuse your body into a unit. So when something moves, everything moves. Okay? It's not my hip and then this. It's not this and then that. Fuse into a unit. Okay? So you're fused up. I'm fused up right now. This move here shows you that I'm fused. All right, so here I am. I step in the batter's box. I fuse up. All right? Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to coil more as I'm waiting for the pitch, or as I'm waiting for, actually I'm waiting for the pitcher to go through his thing. I'm going to be coiling a little bit, and then I'm going to pick up at some point and coil back like this and keep pulling back with my leg, my hip, my lower back, my upper back, as I lift my foot and I create a stretch. I've often called it like a rag ring like stretch, like you're wringing a rag out. That rag ring feeling it happens when your leg, when you're pulling back like this and your leg starts to go forward. Right there, I'm back up here, my leg is turned open. Okay, so fuse, coil some more, pick up your foot and coil some more, keep pulling back with your back, and at the time you decide to swing, you tilt and snap simultaneously. Okay, again, this is the feeling I want to have as I'm waiting for the pitch. And then when I start my move, depending on maybe a handbrake for the pitcher or some point around that time, I'm going to start this move here. And my goal is to get right there before I swing, right there. And this is what I call the hip slip position. I'm coiling and moving forward, and at some point this foot's going to come down. I don't want it to come down, but you can't hold it forever. It's going to come down. Coil and hold that right there. What most kids do, put their foot down and shift their weight, and that's the exact opposite of what they should do. Get this feeling here, coil, and right there where the hip is going to slip, you tilt and snap. And the better hitter you'll be when you learn to get to that spot with control so you can snap it for the fastball or hold it a tick longer for the off-speed pitch. Okay? Hope that helps. Can you demo what stuck on the backside looks like and how to avoid it? Stuck on the backside basically means you get your nice stretch and fire and load, and when you swing, you stay back like this. You see a lot of people who are trying what I teach but don't have it down yet. They'll come back here like this, and then they'll go back further like that to create some space for their arms to get through. That's stuck on the back side, okay? You fix that by not leaning back into your coil. You fix that by coiling around, not linear, around your rear leg, and then as you go forward and snap and tilt, the leg literally throws you forward as you snap and tilt. You've got such a load on your leg, such a stretch on the leg, that when you finally snap and tilt, you get thrown forward. Okay? I have trouble seeing improper weight shift in upper level hitters. What should be I looking for? Well, the best way to learn would be to look at the video of them and play their video to the point where they launch the barrel. In other words, the barrel starts to blur out. On the good hitters, it'll blur out rearward. Okay? That's the launch frame. The frame where the barrel starts to blur is the launch frame. So, at that frame, look where their weight is. Okay? It's always back on the great hitters. That's the first thing you look at. Now, you're going to see that their weight was, say, right here. The barrel blurs right there. But you're also going to see prior to that this movement here, some version of this, it might be this, it might be this, but their back is stretching the whole time up until they launch. You cannot continually stretch your back, continually is the word, and get to your front foot. I'm still back. My front foot's down, but I'm still back. But if I don't do this, or if I do this and stop, my weight shifts to the front leg. So the stretching process, you get good at seeing that. You first get good at finding the launch frame, and then you get good at, yes, he's stretching, he's pulling back, he's doing something with his back to counter that forward, and if his foot comes down, he's still back. But if he doesn't have something pulling back as he goes forward, the foot comes down, his weight has shifted. Okay? Another good thing to watch is the stripe on their pant, if they have one. If their weight is back when they launch, that stripe snaps through. The stripe on their pant will snap through very quickly. If their weight got forward, the stripe on the pant is very slow comparatively. Okay? And probably the best way for anybody to learn what those things I just described are is to pick up the bat and do it yourself, and you'll feel it. If you're stretching as you go forward, continually, not stretched and stopped, but continually stretching, and your foot comes down, you're going to feel that you're back. You're going to feel that even though that foot's down, your weight is back. Okay? And then do the opposite. Do what I just did. Just pick up and go forward without a pullback, without a back pulling back, and you'll feel your weight go to the front foot. Okay? When you are throwing BP or flips, what are some things that you look for from the front view when working with students? Good question. It's hard to tell if they are doing it right from that view all the time for me. Very good. Well, first of all, let me tell you about the free app called Video Delay, I think is the name of it. It's free. It's absolutely free. And I will set my iPad so that we can see their video on my iPad through that video delay, and I also hook up my Apple TV, so if I'm flipping to them, I can see it on the TV, which is back by where I'm throwing. So the iPad is sitting across from the hitter themselves, and they can see what they're doing after they swing. There's like you can set the delay as whatever you want, but you set like a 4-second delay. They take a swing, and then they can see it. And I can see it too on my TV that's back by where I'm flipping from. So first, I'd recommend that highly. It's a free app, okay? Now, you may not have Apple TV, but if you're working off a tee, it's really good for that. So what do I look for when I'm flipping? If I don't have that setup running at the moment, I'm looking for quickness. There is a quickness that is uncommon. It's special when you do it right. I don't care if I'm working with an 11-year-old kid or a 25-year-old pro. When they do it right, the quickness is very noticeable from the front view. They may not be perfect, although they're going to be darn close when that bat snaps, when that bat suddenly snaps at the ball. Okay? So in most of my lessons, I don't have this video set up when I'm working with new students, because I can tell by the quickness whether they're close or not. But once we advance, and they're pretty good, then I'll set up the video system, the video delay app, and then I can look and see that swing wasn't very quick. Then I look at the TV monitor, and I can see, oh, they didn't get stretched, or they got to their front leg too soon, or their snap was late, or blah, blah, blah. Okay? And I realize I've been at this for 15 years now, so I have a little better eye than you. But I will tell you, if you just dive in and just start looking and studying, you're gonna improve your eye very quickly, very quickly. Okay? So that's a long-winded way of saying I look for quickness from the front view. Now, I can also see some path problems. I can see when they went down to and down through the ball and the barrel never turned up through the ball. Sometimes I can see when they got to their front foot before they swung. The ball flight will tell you a lot. When a guy is constantly hooking the ball, ground balls and hooking him to the pull field, something's off. He got to his front leg, or he didn't snap it, or his snap was late, or he didn't get fully stretched. He tilted, but he didn't tilt from max coil. There's all kinds of little things to look for. But basically, the real key is the snap of the swing. And as you're working with your son or daughter or your students, You may not quite know what that quickness is yet, but one of these times they're going to pull off a swing that you're going to say, whoa, what was that? It was so quick and so sudden, and the sound off the bat was so good. That's the swing we're looking for, okay? So just keep digging, by the way, if your son and daughter is really young, 12, 13, 15, even into high school, it probably isn't critical for them to have that perfectly snapped swing, but it is important that you start looking for it, and when it comes, that becomes your goal, because that's going to set them apart from everybody that they play with and against, okay? It's real noticeable. I had Christian Franklin in here this past weekend. He's one of our members on the HLP Facebook group. He made a tremendous response, improvement in quickness when we talked about swing direction. I already covered that at the beginning of this live session. Some of you maybe got here late, but it's recorded, so be sure to watch it. I'm going to cover it briefly here. When the hitter understands to launch rearward, he can be, and he will be quick. But when a hitter doesn't understand that, and they can't figure out how a rearward barrel is going to get to this ball that's coming from the front, then they're not going to be quick. And the difference is the direction of the launch. They can't figure out how to launch rearward and get that barrel in front of the ball. And so they launch forward. Even though they're snapping it, they're also pushing it, which means they can't launch until they know the direction. The ball's outside, the ball's up, the ball's down, the ball's middle, whatever. They can't launch until they have that exact information. And therefore, they can't be quick because it takes them too long to process that, okay? But when every swing is launched rearward, like the Manny Ramirez and the Miguel Cabrera 6 home run swings from 6 different pitch locations, I know I've posted it several times. When you fully understand that, you'll find out that the hitters are launching their bat rearward and then determining direction, determining where the location of the pitch is. Their direction of their launch is always rearward. And they know that they can get to any pitch from this rearward launch. They can just let their body contort or let their arms out or pull their arms in or bend over a little bit. They can do whatever it takes to get that launched barrel in front of the ball. Okay? All right, here's a question. I have a lefty who just misses hitting ball flush. Pops up to short or left center often. Could hand drop be a cause? Yes, it could be. Also, best way to train to hit moving ball in different locations. First of all, the first question, if she's swinging properly and she's popping up, she's hitting the ball out front. She's hitting the ball in basically what should be the follow through of the swing, instead of where the speed is, which is down the back to the ball. She sounds like, if she's doing it right, that she's launching forward instead of down the back, and she's catching the ball out front, getting under it. That's if she's doing it right. If she's doing it wrong, I really need to see video to help you with that, okay? But could a hand drop cause? Yes, it could. Yes, it could. Hand drop, and then the ball's up, and so you swing up to get to it. This up and down thing is an amazing topic. If you've heard me talk, I swear hitters swing down. The good hitters said they swing down, and I believe them. And I believe you have to swing down. You have to swing down the back. That's where the acceleration is. And it comes around, and it ends up going up the front, but you didn't swing up the front. You swung down the back, and you were actually done applying force right here, but because it's an arc you created, it went up the front. And that's what we want to have. We want to have a slight incline through the ball, so we're hitting line drives, okay? But this word down, swing down, totally misunderstood by most people. If you swing down and stay down through the ball, you're doing it wrong. If you swing down but your barrel comes up through the ball, you're doing it right, okay? So the second part of your question there, best way to train hitting a moving ball in different locations. Let me get my props. Okay, so this middle line represents the line from pitcher to catcher. And this represents an outside pitch and this an inside pitch. So what I want my hitters to feel as they're waiting for the ball is there's a spot right here where their hands are that stays solid. In other words, it's not a bunch of this. Set your hands right there. I oftentimes say set them on the shelf and leave them there. Okay? A little coil is fine. I'm still on the shelf when I'm coiling, but this kind of stuff is trouble. They may be able to do it after they get proficient at what we're talking about, but I want them to feel there's a spot, a point in time where these three lines converge, and that's their handset. And so they are prepared to turn their barrel down that line from that spot, or down this line from that spot, or down this line from that spot. And here's what most of them do. Most of them, because of their momentum and this movement that they want to have, which they're convinced helps them swing, and it probably did help their old swing, but it's absolutely in the way of their new swing. It's in the way of what we're trying to teach them to do. They don't have a spot. They don't have a spot to launch from. Okay? When you have this spot right there somewhere, it might be up here for a person who holds his hands high. It might be down here for a lower person. You have to be able to turn it from that spot. And if you have a spot, you should be able to turn it, and you should be able to turn it any direction you want it to go. Okay? Instantly. You don't want the hands to move forward. I mentioned the shelf. You got to get the feeling that the only way off the shelf is up. The only way this knob comes off the shelf is it goes up first, and then the hands move. If your hands move off the shelf first and then snap it, you're going to be late with your snap, you're going to be late on the fastball, and you're going to have trouble going multiple directions. Good question.